Hey everyone, Pablo here and welcome to a new video. This is the second part of the collab with David. We're going to carry on from what we left off. It's going to be a spoiler-filled discussion, so make sure you have read the book before you start. And we're going to carry on from what we left off in the last video. We're going to talk about what our thoughts, maybe our predictions, and how they were terribly wrong. And then we're going to do a second half of the video where we're going to rank POV characters. So make sure you go to David's channel and check that out.
Okay, we could jump right into the predictions that we 100% got right, nailed it, crushed it, predicted every chapter. No.
Did we get any
I thought there was going to be
predictions
a huge battle.
Same. I'll talk about
think,
about this later when we talk about like the big climactic scene, because I think we were expecting a big battle, but we ended up with something very different. I think equally epic, but very different.
There was not a huge battle. I think everything leading up to it was like, oh, there's, it's going down. And then, things went down and things happened. There was a cool fight, but they didn't start the war yet. They didn't really get into that huge battle. And what else? Giselle getting dragged out to the war. It almost happened, but then it didn't. And then, what was the other one? I mean, there's still the Glotka. Maybe someday he'll be king.
Maybe. Who knows?
That one still is. I think that would, if by some miracle it happened, it would be like a book 3 kind of thing.
Yeah, I was going for a long shot prediction there.
Came to mind.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I talked about how I had the hunch that Jethro was going to be killed, and that fortunately did not happen. And I think we'll talk about this more in your video, but Giselle has gone up in my ranking after the second half of the book, whilst all the characters have gone down, like, massively. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I think that from the main predictions, oh, did it happen again?
It'll never stay. It won't do it.
Oh yeah. And then you always find yourself sort of like doing that so that it doesn't fall. Yeah. I think that from the main predictions, the one that we were predicting a big climactic battle, and we were also predicting seeing Logan in the Bloody Nine in that battle. We got two different things, but we kind of got what we wanted. In a different way.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I really thought we were going to get a scene with Hoff and Baez kind of going back and forth, but we never got that. I thought that's for sure was but okay. So we get Giselle, who gets to lead them over to Hoff, and he's kind of sitting there like, it's so interesting to see Giselle describe the other characters. He's like, okay, here's this bald man who's clearly a fraud, and you just see finally like what the other characters see and think of each other, and it's cool to get that first. Yeah,
there he goes again. Yeah, I think one of the chapters that because again I have to say he is so funny, like the dialogue and the inner monologues are so funny, and one of the scenes that really got to me was when Giselle was getting ready for the contest, and how he was absolutely marveled by his chiseled jaw and his beauty.
Look at this chin and
that was just like, oh my god, what a prick. That just
it's such a typical Giselle moment.
I think that it really summarizes the character really well. If you want to know what Giselle is, read that chapter, and so good. So good.
Yeah, I think pretty much anything like that, it works as long as it's character development. Like, you throw that on any other character, you're like, what the hell is this? But on Giselle, you're like, no, that's him. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And,
it was so good. It was so comical.
and that's another thing that keeps popping up all throughout the book from start to finish is the comedy. I was not expecting that. It's pretty funny all the way throughout.
So yeah, they come to the city, and basically, Glocta is trying to. Salt tells Glocta, right, I want you to go and investigate these three buffos, this three weirdos that are obviously frauds and are gonna try to do something weird. And then Glocta is trying to follow up on it. And one of the things that really stuck with me as well is how Glocta asks everything, like questions everything. Like he is truly an inquisitor, because everything that happens in his mind is this real? Is this really? Was like, is this the truth? Like, is this the facts? What if like, you see like 5 or 6 question marks when he's doing his inner monologues, and that is just really good character development.
It's such a good job for him, just because he's you can tell it's his personality. Like he dreams about, like, what if I just stayed home and my mom took care of me and all that. And it's not so much that this is a random job he took. This is a good fit. This is his natural personality, is constantly questioning everything, to the point even when he starts to see things that could and should be magic, he kind of questions. He'll ask like 15 questions, and then the last one will be like, or is the simpler explanation it's magic? But he's like, even when he sees it. So I like how he sees they have that explosion in the middle of the night with Logan. He's just trying to take a piss, and somebody that looks like his wife comes in, and then luckily Baez comes in there and blows her up, or blows up the wall, and gone, just like that. Doctor has to look at that and see, like, okay, well, what happened here? And then he investigates. The first place he goes to is the school, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
He goes out there, starts talking to the professors, and is like, okay, well, show me what an explosive can do. And they show him, and like, oh, this much would cause this little sparkle. And he's like, that's not it. He's just
yeah, it's really good. One other thing that I think you can really tell how, like, the care that Abercrombie puts in the character development is the way that Glocta despises Jezal. And I think it's because he sees himself in him when he was younger, when he was that champion and went to the war. And I think part of Glocta was like he was like Jezal, and then he I think he says it in a bit of the book, he dies, and then there's another person reborn, this wretched, misshapen creature that is not Sandan Glocta, is another character, another person. So I think there's that kind of hatred comes from there, I think.
Okay, so he's investigating, and then they have Inquisitor, who's just, it's like, here, we're already rooting for the torture. We're already rooting for Glotka. And then you introduce like a nemesis character for him. And like, for him even more. Because I'm like, man, I hope he can solve this somehow instead of Goyle. Because, man, nobody likes Goyle. He just seems like a terrible dude. He tortures people for the sheer enjoyment of hurting people. It's such a useful tool.
And that interaction was really good as well. When they, like, we take the remnants of the person, the organs basically to the school, and the dissector in me was thrilled, like, oh, cool anatomy. And then when the Adeptus says, oh yeah, there's nothing, no organs, anything to identify, I was like, oh, very interesting. But anyway, the interaction of how Goyle walks in and he's like, oh yeah, dogs. This was dogs, definitely. And then the practicals are like, yeah, this is dogs. This was dogs. And you're like, okay. But the way that he manages to make you click, like, you're part of the scene.
So that's where we're gonna
go. I see how this is going.
Yeah, it's like right after the Adeptus tells him there's no way that this could be a dog. You know, these are human teeth. These are human teeth marks, or human bite marks. And then Goyle comes in, it's just like, dogs.
I think this is
and
dogs.
He's like, well, but, and they're like,
dogs.
And he's just like,
dogs.
Oh, right, yeah, no, this is definitely dogs. You're so right. Wow. Like, What was I thinking? It was
Good,
just
really,
like the
really
power
good,
that
man.
man commands.
So I think
And
from
then we
there,
have the contest.
yeah. Yeah, so the contest, I was really expecting, again, one of the predictions that we got wrong is that Giselle was either going to die or lose the contest, and we kind of predicted it, because if it went for Bias, and I really want to know, what is he planning? Like, what is he plotting? Because why did he help
He's
Giselle
scheming.
so,
He's coming up with
yeah,
something.
so blatantly? And then again, how he manages to, the way that the chapters are named, and how I think the name of that chapter was "Never Bet Against Them."
The Magi.
Yeah, or something like that. And
Magi,
and
yeah.
yeah, and then he makes, like, basically he cheats, and then Logan is like, "This stinks to high heaven. I don't like this. This is not."
Yeah, he's like, no way.
Yeah, and Malik is just
He
like,
picked
"I
this
told
guy.
you, never bet against the Magas." So good.
Yeah, and you can see why it's like Logan was like, oh, the other guy's been brutally beating everybody. There's no way he's gonna lose this. And then Baez is like, you want to take a bet? And then he's like, I don't have money. He's like, for honor? And he's like, sure. And then all of a sudden, you see Giselle's like, I'm the greatest. I move faster than anybody. I'm stronger than anybody. I'm quicker. I'm the great. And you see it switches over to Glokta. And I like how you jump from each POV within the chapter. Then you see it from Glokta, and he's like, oh, he gets up to leave because he's like, this is over. He's like, I don't need to watch this. I don't want to deal with the crowd. I'm gonna leave. And then just out of the corner of his eye, he sees something. He's like, wait a minute, what? And then Giselle just starts whooping his ass, and it's like, Glokta's natural curiosity, and it's just like, wait, what's happening? Something changed. And he's immediately in his Inquisition mode, and then sits back down. Is like, and he starts looking. He finds Baez, and he's like, "Damn, I was rooting for Giselle. I was like, I like him enough. I think where I wanted to see him win. He was arrogant. He has all these flaws, but he was still like, I don't know. I was still rooting for him in that moment.
Yeah.
And then, of course, once he starts winning, then his arrogance.
Yeah, yeah, but realistically, I thought. I knew that Bramerton Gorst was going to win. The way that he had appended the whole dynamics, and how that in itself, like, Glokta is like, in 2 or 3 years, everyone is going to be fighting like he is, and yeah, like, I knew that the only way that Giselle was going to win was from some Deus Ex Machina shit, and it was the Bias doing his things, which is not bad. Like, it because clearly there's something going on. Like, Bias is scheming something. It's not a gratuitous, oh yeah, and then he wins. There's something grander there.
It's not like a totally random. Here's Joe Abercrombie saying, I decided, let me just switch he's going to win now because I want him to. No, it's like, okay, Baez does it because he has plans for him. There's something going on behind the scenes. It seems like Baez, he knew if Giselle would be the contest champion, he would have that dinner. And then there's important things that happen at that dinner. So maybe Baez is just meticulously placing all these pieces, knowing how everybody's going to respond. And so if it happens like that and there's a reason, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with I want that one to win, and just boom.
I see it, yeah. One thing that we didn't talk about last video, and that we kind of neglecting it in this one as well, is Pharaoh.
Just to touch on that POV, which we totally didn't talk about last time. Pharaoh, she's a really interesting character, but she's so far away. I thought it was going to be like a Song of Ice and Fire situation, where that's the like Daenerys character that's going to come in like the later books, and she's not going to meet up. I didn't know she was going to meet everybody in this book, which was a pleasant surprise.
Pablo from the future here. At this point, my internet decided it was going to go on a strike and just exploded. That's why the next section, I'm in a completely different place, and there's a bit of a mismatch in the content, but it happens.
So Pharaoh's arc looks like it's going to have a lot of important things come up throughout the trilogy. Like, it's setting up other things in that they talk about the second law, and she's actually the one who encounters the eaters who are eating, other people's flesh, breaking the second law. And then Yulwei actually brings up the first law when he talks to Baez. So it's like Pharaoh, I really thought she wasn't going to come into play with the rest of the characters until much later on, like maybe book 2 or something. It totally reminded me of like Dany from Game of Thrones. Like she's out there and she'll come by eventually, but in this one, she actually does join the rest of the cast. And we didn't really get to see too much of her. She only had a couple chapters to show her point of view, and she was kind of a badass. I mean, she was violent, she was aggressive because she had to be, because I mean, everybody's trying to kill her, it seems like, at all times. So we got to see some of that, and then
Abercrombie coming in like hot with the breaking stereotypes. Like there is no damsel in distress here. Like she puts in distress all the people that come into her path. She is such a badass. Catherine, you're making noise.
Then we have the dinner, right? So Baez is invited to this dinner that's for Giselle to celebrate how he's the champion. And I thought it was really interesting that Hoff mentioned all of the other previous champions except Glatka. And it's like, he was like, oh, see how far you can rise. You can be this or that or this. Meanwhile, Glatka is sitting right there, a former champion. Nothing.
Yeah.
It's just like,
it reinforces this taboo. Like Glatka is a taboo. It's like something that shouldn't have happened. Like he should have died. Like it would have been better for every part, like, all of the parties involved, if he would have died in the Gurkhas Empire. So it's like this thing that you don't really even think about. And it's sad. Obviously it's sad. You really feel for the guy. I'm like, oh man, what about Glatka?
Wow. Like, what about Glatka, right? Like,
exactly.
Everybody forgets. And it's
what
just
about
like,
Glatka?
What about Glatka? He's just this thing that everybody pushes to the side and keeps in the shadows. And like, he used to be something, and now he's over there. And it's just like, but he's literally at the table.
But, So this scene is, I think, what this big climax we were expecting. That we were talking about a battle scene at the beginning in our predictions, but I think this is Abercrombie's version, and I think it's so fitting, the fact that we do get action later on, but the big culmination of all of this build up of Baez going from the mountains into the city, it's really a bout of words between Salt and Baez. This battle of wits, and the use of like the theatrical piece to annoy Baez. I really like how he managed it.
Yeah, that was so interesting to show, like, okay, here's the history, and this young woman who dies that obviously Baez cares about. Yeah. And it's like at the end they say, it's not to offend, and Baez, smiles through gritted teeth, but he's saying, my ass, it's not meant to offend. He's like, come on. And he clearly feels disrespected. But I think I think we get like half a point for predictions, because we did predict, everything would come together in the second half. It's just, it didn't turn out to be a big battle, but all the pieces, he brought all the pieces on the board and moved them all together for the second half. And that part did come true. But the battle of wits kind of going back and forth. And he's like, well, then blow up a table. And he's like, I don't want to mess up the soup. and
then he does a check. Like, such a treat.
That was great. I wish we could have got a few moments after that, just to see everybody's faces. Just give me a few seconds after that to just
Salt
relish
glowing
it.
Red.
That would have been nice. And then we're going to the tower, which I don't remember the name of the tower.
The House of the Maker.
House of the Maker. There you go. So this gigantic dark piece of rock that's just, I guess it dwarfs the entire city. It's just this giant mountain. And nobody goes in it. Nobody goes near it for probably hundreds of years. And then, and this was Glatka's big plan, of course, I'm going to catch Baez, because nobody has the key. There's not even a keyhole for this door. And that's such a powerful
thing to include in your story, like this Pandora's box that cannot be opened, and it's there like for everyone to see. And every single time that it's meant, like before that, every single time that the House of the Maker is mentioned, you really wonder what's inside. I really want to know what's inside.
Absolutely. And it's so cool. I think, any fantasy store, that if you're going to have a setting at some point like that has so much mystery surrounding it, like the whole time, like nothing really happened in there. But but I was on the edge of my seat, reading it. I was just like, oh shit, what's about to happen? What's going on? And nothing really. They just walked around and saw some pretty cool sights.
Got a box.
They got the box, and then that was it. But I was like, oh man, it feels creepy. They're constantly like looking over their shoulders. They got up somewhere really high, and Glotka would know out of anybody if there was stairs, and there was no stairs. And he was like, "There's no stairs."
That moment was it landed so well. It was like, oh shit, the oh shit moment that landed so well.
Yeah, and it's like there has to be something else, or some weird, trick on the eyes where they're slowly going upward. But he's thinking, I think magic's finally kind of hitting him, where he's like, wow, something else is going on here.
It's me again. I'm going to leave it on that bombshell because I've got enough footage to do another video, and I don't really want to cut it because I think it's a really good discussion. So this is going to be part 1 of the spoiler-filled discussion. Make sure that you head to David's channel and check his the video that we did on ranking the POV characters, and make sure you watch the next part of this video. And I will see you in the next one.